David Smoke with Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, 365 Sports. And I want to start with this. Dre Edwards, the story of her patience and resiliency, and even yours in the entire program because of what she had to deal with. What did you learn about her and also just how she's handled everything? And my goodness, it's glad to see her play basketball.
Yeah, I mean, really a feel-good story. I think last year was obviously a challenge. A challenge that we knew was a possibility, though. Like, we did not ever go into it not knowing that it was a realistic possibility that she may not play and that she would have to sit a year to play a year. And in this day and age of student-athlete welfare and waivers and everything else, so often you see players are playing right away. So it's actually unusual, especially a year ago. I think we're going to start to see them a little bit more and more, but things being denied. But, I just think what she did last year in terms of, rushing a sorority and graduating, the credit load she took last summer and into the fall to make eligibility even a possibility from an academic and a progress towards the degree, to graduating this summer and starting a master's program in social work. I'm really proud of the progress she's made. I think that, she may not have grown on the court as much as she could have last year, but I think it was a little bit about the acclimation process. It was about finding a comfortable space where she, we didn't load her too much. And so I think we're starting to see kind of the fruits of the labor now. And I think she feels really loved by this community and supported by this community. And so I think it felt really good for her to be out there and be so successful in the opener. I mean, this next game is going to be a big one because I don't know if people know, but not only is it a huge game for our program, but even personally for Dre, she was Pac-12 Freshman of the Year at Utah. And so I don't think she's been back, since she left after her freshman year. So going to be a lot of emotion involved in that one as well.
So it's Utah, and again, there's a break between when you just beat Southern, but also Utah next week. They're fifth in the country. Rankings can change between week to week, but obviously a heck of a challenge. And one, I get a feel when you look forward to this, you're going to find out, and they will too, who they are, right?
Yeah, I mean, we scheduled it for a reason. Now, truthfully, it was supposed to be, ideally the third game of a preseason WNIT that kind of fell apart in July. And so that's kind of why we have this long break. It was too late to find another team this week. And so we were able to replace games that we thought we would get with the NIT more towards Christmas. But I think it's a matchup that's going to challenge us, whether it was a scrimmage against A&M or the different types of teams that we have practiced or competed against so far. There's no doubt that Utah is the most veteran. They return all 5 starters, off a team that was an airball free throw away from the Elite Eight a year ago. And I think they're a hungry team, picked first in a really, really, really strong Pac-12, and have the preseason player of the year in Peely, who was also the player of the year last year. So they stretch you out, they make threes. Man, if you make mistakes defensively, they'll make you pay. So, we're going to definitely see where we're at and what we need to work on to be. I think we have the talent to compete with them. I don't have any doubt that we have the talent and the players to compete with them. But I think the seasoning can be a big part of these type of matchups. Do we share the ball? Are we connected? Do we get the ball where it needs to go and when it needs to go there? Do we take the three away? Do we give them one shot? Are we doing all the little things that seasoned teams do? And as veteran as we are, we still have a lot of new starters and a lot of new pieces. And I think there's no doubt we're going to be better in February and March than we are in November.
There's so much made of realignment. And then obviously the additions of what happened this year with the Big 12, but the incoming 4 from the Pac-12. And here you are, Utah 5, Arizona not long ago won a national championship. Also, we just saw what Colorado did to the defending national champions and looked good doing it in Arizona State. So as a women's basketball coach and the new teams around the corner, even though you're focused on now, was that somewhat overlooked in your opinion about who's about to join the conference?
Well, I think there's, obviously when it comes to realignment, it's football driven. We all understand where the bread is buttered in college sports and understand that it certainly impacts us in a big way. I think, this year, the additions that we had are programs in Cincinnati and UCF and Houston that are going to benefit, from Big 12 affiliation and recruiting in a lot of different ways, but maybe don't bring the history or the rankings. But then you add these Pac-12 teams and, Colorado got over the hump 2 years ago and have been in the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row, besides obviously, a huge upset to start the season. Even Arizona State, who's the non-ranked team in that grouping, probably has as good a history as anybody in the group, but Charlie Turner-Thorne retired a little over a year ago. And so they're just still in that transition phase, new coach, new system, and, doing things differently. So, yeah, I think Arizona, Colorado, Utah turned the corner and just are really talented and know who they are. And they went from a team that knew what they were doing and how they were doing it to a team that's now recruiting players in the top 20. Like they were winning with players, top 100 kids, fringe top 100 kids now because of their success. Their recruiting is elevated and they're in the mix on, top 20 kids now. So, I think they're really going to add depth, talent, maybe open up the West in recruiting in a lot of ways. I mean, you have to look at it as an opportunity, but there's no doubt that it's, especially with, 16 teams and an unbalanced schedule, it's going to be a unique situation that we're all going to be kind of, and not just us, it's going to be in the Big Ten. It's going to be everywhere, just these, kind of super conferences and the dynamics of, you're going to have fewer conference champions. It's harder to win a conference championship. So there's no doubt that they're going to add a lot of strength to our league in 2024.
Sarah Andrews came in with a lot of hype and is All-American when she came out of high school, and she's been a part of this program through a lot. And then she went over 1,000 points, which was pretty cool. But what I hear is, yeah, that's great. But what I hear is her growth as someone who now is a leader, not just because she's an older player, but because of the way she has now kind of accepted or understands her role of what you need from her to be a leader on your basketball team.
Yeah, Sarah Andrews is a special talent. There was no doubt. When I took the job, I certainly knew of her. She hadn't played a lot as a freshman. She was a player that was so hungry to get court time that first year, but also was very passive in terms of, we had Jordan Lewis, who was a 6-year senior, and Queen was a big personality, and Melissa Smith was her best friend and certainly the best player on our team. And so because of that, she was able to just kind of play her game and do it really effectively, efficiently. I thought arguably if she doesn't, break her wrist in February that year and isn't playing hurt, that we would have had a better chance to finish the season, a little bit differently. But, I think she's making strides each year. It's not natural for her, but I think it's something that you need to naturally do from that position. Also with the time that she, has been here and understands our system. She's our best player, but she also needs to get the feel of like, when do I need to give it up? When do I need to involve everybody else? And why do we do, what we do? And I think that's her greatest strength, is that she understands that her teammates are looking for her to lead. They need her to lead. mainly on the court. It's not always about what somebody does off the court. It's about when you step on the floor and you get between the lines, they're going to listen to the person that knows what they're doing, who's been there, who's done that, and who has the ball in her hands the majority of the time. And so, I think it's been something sporadic that she did a year ago. There were times when she was an unbelievable leader and times when she would disappear a little bit as a leader, and it would fluctuate based on, kind of how she was playing. And understanding that it makes no difference whether she's making shots or missing shots. That role can't change. That's got to be the one constant, that she's leading and getting people where they need to go.
It's not that you didn't coach women's basketball at the college level before, because you have, and then you went into the WNBA, and that's a different animal, although it's all basketball, and you have to make shots and play defense, etc. Where are you better now as you enter this year at Baylor in this particular year and getting back into the college game that you love so much?
Yeah, I think where I'm better, and truthfully, I think you're always still finding your footing. I'm really only in year 6 as a head coach, and so because of that, I'm learning in a lot of ways. I think where my greatest strength is being more direct with our team. I think sometimes I've always said that I really do care about these kids, and relationships matter to me. And I don't just say that because it's a tagline and you have to say it to get recruits and get players. But I actually do want our players to be happy. And when you've got 13 players and that there's those defining moments of who's a starter, who's a role player, and who's a cheerleader.
Yep.
And those are hard things, especially when for us right now, there's not a lot of difference. Like when you get past 2 or 3, and then it's 4 through 9, 10, 11, depending on the game, depending on the matchup, depending on the health, all of that. But really being more direct in terms of what the expectations are, not holding them accountable to those expectations. And, it's because it's one of those things when you're in the pros, it's truly about managing personalities, and it's game planning, and it's so little of college athletics right now is game planning. So little of it is X's and O's. Like, I used to sit around during the season in the pros, and I was either watching film, preparing a game plan, or doing a little player development stuff. But so little of college athletics right now. It's making sure they're going to class. It's wondering, I just got out of a meeting to know where are we at in different classes, who's struggling in which class, and where are we at physically, where are we at mentally, where are we, and so much of my job is not just putting them in position to be successful on the court. It's making sure that I can get them in position to be successful on the court. And so, it's a little bit parent, it's a little bit counselor, it's a little bit of everything all the time. But I think I know the ebbs and the flow to college sports more and more. And even though I was only gone from college sports for 5 years, like Gen Z is different. This group is just different. And it's not me to bash them. I mean, I've got 3 kids that are Gen Zers, and so, but it's about understanding how they think, how they move, what they're motivated by, like how I can get through to them, how I can get the most out of them. So that part doesn't change. The idea of being a coach is about motivating and pushing buttons and helping them, kind of unlock their potential, but it looks different generationally. And I think some of that is, we're still trying to figure out. I think all the coaches in the country are trying to figure it out a little bit, but you have to look at it as an opportunity, even though at times you're frustrated by certain things and how they're said or how they're perceived. The idea is still like, this generation is going to do huge things in this world. So how are we guiding them to help them accomplish those things? And when they leave here, they're going to leave here better, regardless of what they do, whether they're professional athletes, whether they're, go to grad school, whether they're going to be doctors, lawyers, whatever it is, IT specialists, that we've prepared them the best of our ability to be good leaders, in the world.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my last question. Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, Utah, Tuesday in a great matchup at the Farrell. And we'll have Nicki on at least 2 or 3 times a month, about every other week, and can't wait for those times. It's great to get you on when I can. You mentioned being a parent. Yes, you are. You mentioned 3 kids. Yes, you have. And now 2 of them are right there with you on campus. How much is that with Reese and Connor so close? And because I know that it was difficult because of it. They're in the East Coast, you're here, and that, especially when you first took over. How much has that at least allowed you to go, yes?
Mm-hmm. It's, it's almost like therapy without a therapist, like it's, my son, when we're in the practice gym, usually at some point during practice, I'll look up and he'll be doing homework on my balcony. So I see him almost every day. Like, he's super invested in terms of watching the team and really, he told me it's become more difficult to watch the games now because he's more invested. Before
right.
He knew when I was playing, but once he started, like, okay, that's what she can do. That's what I know she's capable of doing. I think he's invested at a totally different level, but he's just around a lot, and we cook dinner occasionally together, and my son loves food and loves to cook. He learned to cook during COVID, and so it's just kind of his thing. And then Reese is just busy all the time, with cheer, vertical, flow, different things that she's doing on campus. Her schedule's a little more jam-packed than Connor's, but I do see her at least 3 or 4 times a week, and she pops over, just not as long. But it's been so good. But the bigger part of it for me is, and everyone who's a parent knows this, you're only as happy as your most unhappy child. And so they love Baylor, and they've really enjoyed their experience here so far. So as great as it's been for me to have them close, and even to have Connor doing his laundry at the house and be around, it's way more therapeutic to see them kind of growing and engaging and being a part of this Baylor community and loving being students and the growth that I'm seeing in them in the classroom and everywhere else. So great to have them here, but even better that they seem to really be enjoying it. It's not that they're just here because mom's here, or,
yeah.
They got a discount on their tuition.
Hey, can you discuss Inez signing with you? Is that official now? I guess it is because you posted.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
tell everyone
official.
what she brings to the table. She's from Bulgaria, played up in New York and the AAU.
Yeah, I've tried to think of someone that she reminds me of that Baylor fans would know, and I don't have my finger on that yet. But what I love about her, she's so confident. Like, there's just a swagger and she's a kid whose mom was a professional women's basketball player well into her 40s, like past Monty Ginobili. Like, wow. In terms of, and now she coaches and runs an academy in England, but is Bulgarian. And so Nez just grew up in the gym. She grew up and came to the United States, just like, I remember the first time I talked to Diana, her mom, and her mom just said, like, look, like, you go where you're going to grow. Like, and if that's your dream is to play basketball, like, that's why I let her leave at 15 to come over and play in prep school in America. And she was kind of a late bloomer in terms of, like, probably the club scene. But I think she's got really, really deep range. Deep range from 3, but she can make all the plays off the bounce, but it's really like the thing that always stands out to me, with point guards or guards that are combo guards and can play either guard position is, what do they act like when things aren't going well? And the Gauchos weren't the best AAU team this summer. They had some talent, but I probably watched them lose a game by 30, and she was still in that huddle, talking to them, leading them, getting them shots. Like, when I see that, like, I see someone that isn't just out there to get her own shots up, especially when you're down. It's like she's still talking, she's still competing, but she can really score it, off the bounce. She can make the passes. And then she's just a feisty defender. I don't think people are going to talk about her defensive prowess, and maybe it's not her greatest strength because of her shooting ability. But I think she really gets after it. But she's a gym rat kid. She loves the hoop, and I think that's a big part of what I loved about her from the first time I saw her is you can tell she loves to play, and there's like a competitive edge about her.
Thank you, Nicki. Appreciate it. Glad we got this one, and one of many to come, and good luck coming up against Utah. I'll see you there at that one. Nicki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach on 365 Sports.